What would happen if time was being manipulated by a black hole? Imagine that suddenly everything around you starts to slow down. The sounds of the streets, people, and even your own breathing are distorted. The sky, which was once clear, is now covered by a black veil, and an invisible force begins to pull everything towards it. You try to move, but your feet feel stuck to the floor. When you look up at the sky, you see an immense distortion. A black hole sucking in light, matter, and time. You see the past and the future colliding before your eyes. The surrounding buildings age and collapse in seconds, then rebuild themselves as if nothing had happened. Time is collapsing and recreating itself at the same time. And you are stuck in this eternal cycle, not knowing if you are living the beginning or the end. Science suggests that black holes can distort space-time. But what if this distortion was unlimited to space? What if the flow of time itself was being manipulated, making you relive the same moment over and over again without realizing it? If time is not linear, has your past been rewritten countless times? Are you living for the first time, or just repeating the same endless cycle? Now I want to know, do you believe that time is really stable, or are we trapped in an eternal cycle without realizing it? Leave your comment below and tell me if you've ever felt like time was out of control, like the past and the future were blending together. There are theories that suggest this may be more than fiction, and in this video you will discover the signs that could prove that the impossible may already be happening. Stay with me until the end, because what you discover could forever change the way you see time and reality. If a black hole really could manipulate time, it would mean that the concept of past, present, and future would cease to exist as we know it. A black hole's extreme gravitational field not only warps space, but also time itself. Near its event horizon, time slows down so much that, to an outside observer, a person falling toward a black hole would appear frozen in time. But for the person sucked in, time would continue to flow normally. Einstein's theory of relativity already suggested that time is relative, but a black hole takes this idea to an extreme level, creating a time loop where the past, present, and future can coexist. If time is being compressed by a black hole, events that have already happened could be happening again, or never actually happened. The concept of causality, where an action leads to a consequence, could be destroyed. This raises questions about free will. Are your choices really yours, or are you just repeating a predetermined script? If time is being manipulated, how do you know if you haven't lived this moment before? Some physicists believe that black holes can create bridges across space-time, so-called wormholes. If this is true, time could fold in on itself, forming an infinite cycle where everything that has already happened and everything that will happen are interconnected. But if time is a spiral, would it be possible to escape this cycle, or would you be doomed to relive the same events forever? And the most disturbing thing, the effects of this temporal manipulation would not necessarily be consciously perceived. To you, everything could seem normal, while in reality, you would be repeating the same events over and over again. The feeling of déjà vu could be a side effect of this temporal distortion, a memory from a previous cycle that your brain can't fully process. If time can be manipulated by a black hole, destiny could be real. The future would have already happened, the past would be constantly rewritten, and your choices would just be a repetition of an already defined cycle. Quantum particles can exist in multiple states at the same time. Could your own consciousness also be fragmented into different intersecting timelines? Stephen Hawking suggested that black holes slowly evaporate, releasing radiation. But what happens to the information sucked up by a black hole? If a black hole is capable of storing information about the past and future, it would mean that time is not a continuous flow, but rather a series of fixed events that can be accessed at any point in the time cycle. Now think about this for a second. What if you had seen this video before? What if this feeling of déjà vu you may be feeling right now is an echo of a previous time cycle you have already lived through? The idea that time is being manipulated by a black hole is not only disturbing, it calls into question the very nature of reality. If the future has already happened and the past is constantly being rewritten, how can you be sure that your choices are truly yours? Or are you just following a script that was already defined billions of years ago? Information like this isn't easy to find. It's snippets of knowledge that defy logic and the known laws of physics. That's why leaving a like now, it's more than a simple gesture. It's a way of showing that you value this type of knowledge and want it to continue to be explored. When you give a like, YouTube understands that this content is relevant and delivers it to more people who, like you, are looking for answers to the greatest mysteries in the universe. And let's be honest, if you've made it this far, it's because something in this content is moving you. So why not leave a like now and continue this journey with me? If time has already been written and rewritten countless times, are you living for the first time or just repeating the same cycle? If a black hole can store information about the past and future, would it be possible to manipulate time and change destiny? Or was the time cycle so ingrained in the structure of the universe that nothing could be changed? If all this is true, what does it really mean to be alive? If time is truly relative, as Einstein suggested, then your perception of the passing of seconds, minutes, and hours may just be a construction of your mind. Near a black hole, extreme gravity causes time to slow down so much that it almost stops. But what would happen if this slowdown was not just a local effect, but rather a fundamental characteristic of the nature of time itself? Now imagine that everything you have ever experienced and everything you will ever experience are happening at the same time, but on different layers of reality. What you perceive as now could just be a repetition of something that has already happened countless times. The feeling of déjà vu, for example, could be the result of this temporal overlap. Not a simple brain failure, but a side effect of the fragmentation of time. Relativity also suggests that time slows down at extreme speeds. If you were on a ship traveling at close to the speed of light, time for you would pass much more slowly compared to someone stationary on Earth. Now, if a black hole can manipulate time in this way, is the timeline you experience just a fraction of a larger cycle that has already been repeated many times? If time can be bent, it would also raise disturbing questions about free will. Would your choices really be yours? Or would you just be following a script that has already been defined countless times? The feeling of control over your life could be an illusion created by your mind to make this eternal repetition more acceptable. Another intriguing point is that time may not be synchronized in different parts of the universe. In regions with intense gravity, time can practically stand still, while elsewhere it continues its normal course. This means that the future may have already happened in one part of the universe, while you are still stuck in an ongoing cycle in another timeline. If time is a construct relative to gravity and speed, that means it is not fixed. It can be manipulated. Now, what does this really mean for your existence? Are you living in the present for the first time, or are you just repeating events that have already happened? What if you were not only trapped in this cycle, but also unable to escape it? Time as we know it may just be an illusion created by our mind to organize events that are actually happening simultaneously on different planes of reality. If time has been manipulated before, how could you realize it? Is this feeling of déjà vu just a fragment of a timeline that you have already walked through countless times? If all of this is true, it would mean that what you consider to be the present is already defined, and that the future is not a possibility, but rather a reflection of something that has already happened. The question isn't just whether time is an illusion. The real question is, if you're stuck in a time loop, how could you possibly perceive it? Now I want to know, do you believe you have control over your future? Or do you think you are just repeating a destiny you have already set? Leave your comment below. I want to hear your opinion on this. Is what you consider the present really new or just a repetition of something that already happened? If time were being manipulated by a black hole, the very concept of reality could fall apart. The way you perceive the world is based on a logical sequence of events. You wake up, go about your day, sleep, and hope the next day follows that same sequence. But if time is shaped by extreme gravitational forces, what you think of as now could just be a distorted reflection of an endless cycle. If the past and future are overlapping, your perception of reality would be just a fragment of this continuous cycle, and you would have no way to distinguish between what is real and what is just a repetition. Now imagine that your memories are not fixed records of past events, but rather fragments of different overlapping time cycles. The feeling of familiarity when experiencing something for the second time could be the result of this temporal confusion, as if your mind was trying to interpret information that was already experienced in another timeline. Your perception of continuity would just be an effort by the brain to make sense of events that are happening simultaneously in different layers of reality. If a black hole really could manipulate time in this way, its perception of cause and effect would no longer make sense. If the future has already happened and the past is constantly being rewritten, you could make a decision now that has already been made countless times in previous cycles. You would feel like you were deciding something for the first time. But in reality, you would just be replicating a decision that has already been made before. Free will in this context could just be an illusion created by your mind to deal with the constant repetition of a temporal cycle. Reality, therefore, would not be a linear flow of events, but rather a series of temporal overlaps where different versions of the same instant could coexist. It is possible that you have experienced this moment before, but without being aware of it. Your mind could be trying to organize this information into a logical timeline, while in reality you are just reliving fragments of a larger cycle. If time is being manipulated in this way, it would also mean that your perception of identity is fragmented. What you think of as personality, memory, and self-awareness could just be a temporary construct created to make sense of a sequence of events that has already happened countless times. You would not be a single entity, but rather a reflection of multiple versions of yourself, shaped by different time cycles. But the most disturbing thing is that, if reality is shaped by overlapping temporal cycles, you could be trapped in an infinite sequence of events without realizing it. What you experience today could have been experienced before, and what you consider the future could already be defined. The question is not just whether reality is an illusion. The real question is, if you are trapped in this time loop, how could you escape it? What you are about to discover will make you question everything you believe. If the past and future coexist, that would make time travel a real possibility. Black holes, with their ability to distort spacetime, could create temporal shortcuts, allowing different moments of the timeline to intersect. Now, imagine going back in time and preventing the birth of one of your parents, the famous grandfather paradox. If you ceased to exist, who would have returned to prevent this birth? This conflict between cause and effect would create a cycle with no logical solution. Another paradox arises if the future is already defined. If you went back in time to prevent a tragic event, your actions could be the very cause of that event. The causality paradox. In this scenario, any attempt at change would not create a new future, but would reinforce the original result, as if time were protecting itself against change. Now think, what if you traveled to the future and met an older version of yourself. This would create the encounter paradox. The simple act of trying to change the future would already be part of the predefined cycle, suggesting that time is a continuous and inevitable loop. But the most disturbing thing is that the universe could have mechanisms to avoid these paradoxes. Some theories suggest that time could self-adjust to maintain temporal continuity, meaning that any attempt at change would only reinforce the original outcome. If that's true, your choices wouldn't really be yours. You'd just be following a script that's already been written countless times. If time really can be manipulated, the question isn't just whether you can time travel, but whether what you are experiencing now has happened before. I'm going to ask you a question that will blow your mind. What if time itself was defending itself from change? If any attempt to alter the past only reinforced the original outcome, would that mean that time is conscious and that the future is already defined? Do you believe that time may be protecting itself against changes? Tell me in the comments what you think. If the universe is truly cyclical, the Big Bang may not have been the absolute beginning, but rather the restart of a previous cycle. Some scientists believe that the universe follows a pattern of birth, expansion, collapse and rebirth in an infinite cycle. A black hole, with its ability to compress matter and energy into a point of infinite density, could be the trigger for this cycle, triggering a new explosion and restarting the process. If time and space really are malleable, an infinite cycle would mean that everything that has ever happened could happen again, but with small variations with each repetition. This would explain why certain historical events seem to follow similar patterns, but never exactly the same. Your perception of continuity and familiarity with certain situations could be a reflection of fragmented memories from previous cycles, which your mind is still able to access. But the most disturbing thing is that if the universe really is in a constant cycle, it could be adapting and evolving with each repetition. Small changes between cycles could alter the cosmic balance, adjusting natural laws based on accumulated experiences from previous cycles. If so, the universe you know now could be the result of billions of past cycles, each one shaping the current configuration of reality. If all this is true, the concept of time would no longer make sense. Past and future would be just reflections of a larger temporal structure where everything is interconnected. If the universe truly is in an eternal cycle, what you are experiencing now may have already happened countless times and may be happening again at some other point in this never-ending cycle. If time really were manipulated by a black hole, your consciousness could exist in different temporal states at the same time. What you perceive as present could just be a mental construct to make sense of events that have already happened or are yet to happen. Your mind could be processing information from different timelines simultaneously, creating feelings of déjà vu or intuitions about the future. If your mind is connected to multiple temporal states, you could experience memories and emotions that do not belong to your current timeline. Emotions without an apparent cause, recognizing someone you've never met, or predicting events before they happen, could be signs that your mind is accessing fragments of parallel realities. This fragmentation of consciousness could alter your perception of identity. If your emotions and decisions are being influenced by events that haven't happened yet, do you really have control over your choices? Or are you just reacting to a cycle that has been traced before? If your mind really can access different temporal cycles, the question is not just what you can see, but if you could control it. Tell me something. Have you left your like yet? Because if you've made it this far, your mind is probably already working to process all of this. And this like is a way of showing that you're really connected with these ideas. Furthermore, liking helps this video reach more people who, like you, want to understand the mysteries of the universe and the human mind. But if you think you've heard enough, Wait until you find out what might happen if time and consciousness are being manipulated by something even bigger, something you may have already seen but just can't remember. If time is a continuous cycle and the future has already happened, this would mean that your perception of control over your choices may just be an illusion created by the constant repetition of time cycles. In a closed cycle, your actions might not actually be spontaneous, but rather conditioned responses to patterns that repeat in each cycle. Your mind could just be reacting to stimuli that have already been experienced, creating the feeling that you are making free decisions, when in fact you are just following a path that has already been traced. Now think about how this would affect your perception of reality. If your choices are already defined, you might have the impression that you are exploring new possibilities. But in fact, you would just be reproducing variations of behavior already experienced in previous cycles. Small changes between cycles could give the illusion of novelty, but the end result would already be programmed to be repeated. In this case, what you consider learning and evolution could just be an automatic reorganization of the cycle to maintain temporal consistency. Despite advances in theoretical physics, science is still far from fully explaining the behavior of black holes and their impact on the structure of time. Black holes defy the known laws of physics, especially when it comes to the relationship between gravity, space, and time. Einstein's theory of relativity explains that gravity is the result of the curvature of spacetime caused by massive objects. But inside a black hole, this curvature becomes so extreme that time stops flowing as we know it. It could simply stop or even reverse itself. What intrigues scientists is what happens beyond the event horizon, the boundary where nothing, not even light, can escape a black hole's gravitational pull. The theory suggests that within this region, time could stop being a continuous line and become a kind of malleable field where different temporal states coexist simultaneously. Instead of a linear sequence of events, time could exist in multiple overlapping layers, which interact with each other in unpredictable ways. String theory, which attempts to unify relativity with quantum mechanics, suggests that the universe may have up to 11 dimensions in addition to the 4 we experience: height, width, depth, and time. In this model, black holes could function as a point of convergence between these hidden dimensions. Time, in this context, would not be an independent dimension. It could be a byproduct of the interaction between different dimensional states. This would explain why time appears to slow down or speed up under extreme gravitational effects. Another big mystery is what happens to the information that enters a black hole. According to quantum mechanics, information can never be destroyed. But if a black hole sucks up that information and it disappears, that would violate one of the fundamental principles of quantum physics. To try to resolve this paradox, Stephen Hawking proposed that information could be stored at the edge of the event horizon in the form of Hawking radiation, a slight emission of particles that occurs due to quantum effects. This suggests that what enters a black hole may not disappear, but rather be stored in a form we cannot yet interpret. But what if time isn't just being affected by a black hole's gravity? It's being shaped and redefined by it. If time is an emergent property of the interaction between space, matter, and gravity, a black hole could function as a reset of time, redefining what you perceive as past, present, and future. This could explain why the passage of time is different in regions with intense gravity. Time isn't just slowing down, it could be rewriting in real time. Another point that challenges science is the concept of singularity, the central point of a black hole where the density becomes infinite and the laws of physics stop working. Current theory cannot describe what happens at this point because all known equations collapse under this extreme condition. If time is being compressed to this point of infinite density, what you consider to be present could just be a distorted reflection of events that are occurring simultaneously in different temporal states. If science is just beginning to understand the behavior of black holes, it means that what you consider reality may be just a fraction of a much more complex temporal structure. If time can be shaped, distorted, and reset inside a black hole, this means that what you perceive as now may be nothing more than a momentary interpretation of a larger temporal state that you are not yet able to comprehend. You've just entered territory that few people know about. What you've discovered here could completely change the way someone sees time and reality. Then, share now with that friend who loves scientific theories and mysteries of the universe. Let's expand this discussion and bring this information to more people, because understanding time could be the key to unlocking the secrets of the universe itself. If the past, present, and future really are controlled by a black hole, our understanding of reality could be completely wrong. Time may not be a straight line, but rather a malleable construct that adapts and reorganizes itself as cosmic forces act upon it. What you consider memory may just be a reflection of something that has already happened and is destined to happen again. Now that you know this, the real question is, what does this change in the way you see the world? If time is malleable and the future has already been written, this means that your perception of reality may only be a limited interpretation of something much larger. What you just discovered is something few people truly understand, and I want to know what you think about it. Leave your comment below and tell me, do you think time is an illusion, or do you believe that we still have control over our destiny? And if that intrigued you, know that this is just the beginning. This channel is your portal to the greatest mysteries of the universe, theories, discoveries, and questions that challenge science and reality as we know it. Sign up now to be part of this journey. Each video reveals a new piece of this cosmic puzzle, and there's so much more waiting for you. And believe me, what comes next may be even more surprising. Some answers lead to even deeper questions, and the next video could change everything you believe about the universe. Get ready, because you're about to discover something that could challenge everything you know about the cosmos.